Hello, this is Mr. Larzalier. I'm so excited to start our music theory units. Um, we've put together a couple weeks of a curriculum here for you. And just to remind you that we're going to start with a lot of review. And then these are designed for all of our students in the 6 through 12 band and orchestra programs. So when we start today is going to be probably quite a bit of review for most people. There's going to be then an exercise portion. We're going to be able to kind of tailor or customize all of the exercises that will be just challenging enough for you that you're going to be able to push yourself a little bit, yet enough review that they should be fairly simple to do. So okay, all right, here we go with music theory. So the first thing I want you to do is to go to your internet browser. I am using Safari, although you can use whatever you'd like. And you're going to go to the website, which is called musictheory.net. The opening page should look like this. Okay, and like I said, we're going to start doing quick review lessons, just two kind of fundamental things today. Then we're going to get into the exercise portion. You don't really have to worry about any of this other stuff unless you would like to. Okay, so we'll start with lessons. All right, and we are going to go with just the basics. Don't worry about this part right here. So as most of you know, music is written on a staff, which has 5 lines and 4 spaces. We always start from the bottom, always count up from the bottom. So the bottom space is space 1 or the first space. The bottom line is the first line. All right, and as you know, the notes on the staff correspond with notes on the keyboard. So right now, if we were in the treble clef, we would be starting on the note E, which corresponds to this note. And then as we ascend or go up on the staff, we go up on the piano keyboard, which is to the right. Most of us read in 2 clefs. The most common clef is the treble clef. So if you are in 6th grade, it's just as a reminder, if you play the flute or the oboe or the clarinet, the alto sax, the French horn, or the trumpet or the bells, you should be reading the treble clef. If you play the bassoon or the trombone or the baritone or the tuba, you should be reading the bass clef. Now, all percussionists should learn how to read both clefs because most mallet music is written in treble clef, but all timpani music is written in bass clef. And as you get more advanced with reading marimba music and other keyboard music, you're going to have to learn how to read the grand staff, which is both clefs put together. Okay, so we have the treble clef and the bass clef. The treble clef, it's easy to remember the first note is G. It's on the second line, and this thing wraps around the second line. So remember, this is called the G clef. All right, and as we ascend, we go through the musical alphabet, which is G, A, B, C, D, E, F, and then G again. Okay. Now, you'll notice that we have run out of room here. If we want to keep going past G, we put what's called a ledger line, which is just a segment of another line, a short segment, as if we were kind of just having another line just for that moment. We call that a ledger line. All right, the bass clef is also known as the F clef because these 2 dots outline the 4th line, which is the note F. And then there are the note names on the staff in the bass clef. Finally, if we take all 11 lines, for some reason when we make the grand staff, they omit the middle line, and they make the grand staff with the treble clef on top and the bass clef on the bottom. And the note that is on that middle line we refer to as middle C. If you have a piano at home, that is the note that is right in the middle of the piano, usually right underneath where the brand name of the piano is. That's middle C. Okay, so that is the note name review for everybody, pretty simple. Then we're going to do a quick review of our note durations. Okay, so these are also known as rhythmic values. We start always with the whole note, all right? And the whole note generally gets 4 counts, but it's the largest note value that you can have. We have the half note, which is also an empty circle with a stem, all right? And this is where we get into some simple math. So the whole note, again, we think of as 4 counts. Then 2 half notes make up a whole note. Makes sense. So then each half note would get 2 counts. The next note is the quarter note. All right. And there are 4 quarter notes in 1 whole note, or 2 quarter notes in a half note, 2 quarter notes in a half note. We get again to a whole note. If we continue on down that path, we have what's called an eighth note. An eighth note has a flag that hangs off of it, or it can also attach to another eighth note, in which case this flag turns into a beam and goes all the way across. So many times, eighth notes are found in pairs or in groups of 4. We also have the eighth note. Obviously, there's 2 eighth notes within a quarter note. The next one is the 16th note. Okay, there are 2 16th notes in an eighth note, 4 16th notes in a quarter note. And we also can continue that pattern. So after a 16th note would be a 32nd note. We just double that bottom number. Then a 64th note, so on and so forth. We don't see those very often. 16th notes are good. 32nd notes, 64th notes, we don't see as often. If you take this whole chart now, okay, we have 1 whole note, which is the same duration as 2 half notes, which is the same duration as 4 quarter notes, which is the same duration as 8 eighth notes, and 16 16th notes. And again, when we're in 4/4 time, those would all take up 1 measure, okay? Good. Now again, I recognize this is a review for all of us. So let's move into the exercise portion, all right? I'm gonna show you how to customize this for yourself. So all I want you to do this week is spend about 15 to 20 minutes doing note identification. You can do it at one time, or you can break it up into 2 or 3 different chunks, okay? And before you do anything, you're gonna go up to this wheel over here, and you're gonna customize your exercises. So the first thing you wanna do is pick which clef you are. Very few of you should start with the grand staff. If you are a junior or a senior, or you play piano, or you're a percussionist, you could start with the grand staff maybe. Most of you are gonna wanna start in your clef. So if you're a 6th grader and you play the flute or the oboe or the clarinet or the saxophone or the trumpet or the French horn or the bells, you're gonna start with the treble clef. If you play the baritone or the tuba or the trombone, you're gonna start with the bass clef. Make sure you unclick the other one so you only have 1 clef at a time. Okay, and then go back. Then pick the range that you want. Again, I'm gonna pick trumpet and clarinet. You guys should be fairly familiar with the following range. Those between, this is C up to B. And you can start expanding that range as you become more comfortable. If you're not comfortable at all with reading notes yet, that's totally fine. Make your range 3 notes, okay? Really easy. Key signatures, you're gonna wanna leave it at 1, which should say no sharps and flats, or all natural notes. You're gonna want letter names. You don't need helpers. You don't want accidentals. Don't want note filter. And don't do the challenge mode yet. So again, this is kind of really the most basic. Now I'm limited to these 3 notes, C, D, and E. So here's, this note is D, this note's C, this note's E. Okay, so I'm only gonna work on these 3 notes. Now, most of us are well past that, and that's totally fine, but if that's who you are, that's fine. Again, then add notes as you get more comfortable with those. Okay, so we're on E, D. Now we start expanding things out a little bit. Just drilling note names, super important. Okay, so now if you are in 7th or 8th grade, again, you should start expanding that range. And again, please confirm that you're in the right clef. Always start there. Expand that range, and then maybe start adding some accidentals. Okay. So you're just drilling these. Here's a B flat. Here's an A. Ooh, F flat. That's an unusual one. Okay. Then if you're getting really comfortable with that, 7th and 8th graders and all high schoolers, you should start adding in key signatures. Okay, so let's just make it really kind of simple at first. I'll just do 3 accidentals on either side. And even if you don't really understand what this means, this will help you. Okay, so I'm gonna go back. So this note is D. Okay, now here's what I'm waiting for. So this note generally, if you were to ignore the key signature, would be C. Since there is an accidental or a sharp on the note C, even though it's all the way over here in the key signature, we're going to call this note C sharp. Okay, so again, start expanding the range, the key signatures to make it more challenging. Now, if you're saying to yourself, Mr. Larsler, I got this, this is no problem, I can do this. Here's the last kind of bit of differentiation, is that with the exception of our viola playing friends, very few people know how to read the alto clef and the tenor clef. If you play bassoon, trombone, euphonium, horn, there are a couple of other instruments that will read alternate clefs. So trombones, you should learn how to read tenor clef. Bassoons, you should learn how to read tenor clef. Horns, you should learn how to read bass clef. Every once in a while, you'll have music that's written in those alternate clefs. Okay, so again, I'm talking only to the oldest and most advanced students now. Get out of your comfort zone, get out of your clef, and pick a different clef to work on. If you don't understand alto clef, I'll just give you a quick demo. Okay, alto clef, the middle line is middle C. Okay, so this note would be C, and it has a sharp on it. So C sharp. That's C sharp. So this would be F sharp. I was confused there. Okay, so that one, so you have to kind of do the math if you haven't done that. So anyway, that is how you are going to customize your work. And lastly, then also you could pick the grand staff and practice bass and treble clef and go from there. But that is your week 1 theory assignment, is to do note name exercises. And I forgot about this part. Lastly, if you do want to do the challenge mode, all you have to do is turn on the challenge mode, and then you set a time limit. I think a good time limit is about a minute. No question limit, no multiple attempts. And then you try to get as many as you can. Here we go. Ready? F, C, C sharp. Okay, and so you go through a minute and try to get, like I said, 20 out of 20 would be awesome. That would be amazing. It's hard to get that many. So maybe 10 out of 10 would be great before you move on, or 9 out of 10, or 11 out of 12 or something like that, where you're pretty close. So I would do that before you move on to the next level. Okay. If you guys have any questions, please email your teacher or come to our office hours or do a little research online and see if you can figure out the answer on your own. But like I said, this is just part of your weekly assignment. I hope you enjoy the theory lesson and then working with your theory exercises. Have a great week, and be sure to tune in for next week when we will attack scales and key signatures. All right.